Hi, it's Ray, and today is OA Day. See what I did there? Ray, OA Day? Anyway, this is Ray from Honeytop Bees. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to talk a little bit about oxalic acid vaporization. I'm going to show you my guns, and we're going to go out to the bee yard and treat all my hives. I run about 35 to 40 hives across 4 locations. 3.5 locations. 2 of them are pretty close to each other, but this time of year it's very important to keep our mite loads low. And most of my mite loads are pretty good. A couple of my hives are higher than I want them to be. I'm just going to go ahead and treat all my hives with OA today.
Coming up.
So I have 2 guns from InstaVap. I have the light and then the original, I guess you would call it. There's really not a whole lot of difference between the 2 of these guns as far as what they actually do. This one's got more controls over it. You can adjust the temperature. You can actually digitally read the temperature. This one does all the same with this one little handy dandy red light. Honestly, if I was buying a gun today, I would just get this one because I never really read the controls and I never really adjust the controls, so it doesn't really have much use for me, and I can't think of a use that it would. When I get started, it's not uncommon that these plungers get jammed. This one is actually okay. Let's see about this one here. Yeah, this one is stuck. So after you use the gun, it seems like these plungers get stuck a lot. I do one of 2 things to loosen it up. I either use hot water or I just tap on it with a hammer, which is what I'm going to do now because I don't want to use water and get moisture in the whole process. I usually use water like at the end of the treatment time so that it will be ready for the next time and has time to dry out. So let me see if I can tap this one loose. My guns are 2 or 3 years old. Oh yeah, that came loose really, really quickly. So on the side of these, you'll see these little notches. Each one of those represents a gram. You just twist the knob here to adjust it. So I'm going to set these at about 3 grams or so. So they're all set to go. Let me check the other one. See what it's set at. Yep, it's set at the same thing. So I'm all set there. I've got some OA. I'm going to go ahead and fill this up. I think one of the things that I really like about the vaporization process is how quick it is. I mean, I literally can go through my hives. Each one takes about 1 minute to 2 minutes of the actual vaporization. So I can go through all my hives in an hour, which is pretty nice. Probably should be wearing gloves for this part here, sorry. But I'm definitely going to wash my hands as soon as I'm done so that I don't somehow rub my eyes or something with this. As a matter of fact, I think I'm just going to go wash my hands now and put gloves on, which is what I should have done from the beginning. All right, so just pretend you didn't see the part where I filled it up without gloves on. You know, I am part of the University of Florida Master Beekeeper program, and they really emphasize a lot of safety and caution so that we don't do anything to injure ourselves. Which brings me to my next point. I cannot emphasize enough, no matter how renegade you might be when it comes to safety, you need a good respirator mask for oxalic acid vapor. I might forget my gloves. I will never forget this. It only takes one time of breathing just a little bit of that vapor in, and you will make sure you never forget your mask again. But I want to emphasize this because I have a lot of people that follow me either on YouTube or local people here that I mentor, students that have taken my beekeeping classes, and they somehow seem to miss this particular point, and they go out and use their gun without any proper respiration mask. You can't just use the little mask that covers your face like we were all wearing during COVID. You need a good high quality mask with organic filtration on it in order to truly protect yourself. So I can't emphasize this enough. That stuff will make you choke, it'll make you gag, and make you feel like you can't breathe, and it is not good for us. So please be very careful when it comes to using oxalic acid vaporization. So other than that, I think I'm all set. I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of DeWalt batteries. I'll show you which ones I use real quick and then we'll go out. So these come compatible with a couple different batteries. Mine are for DeWalt. I use my bigger batteries, my 5 and 6 amp hour batteries, because they last longer. I can really just keep moving along quickly without having to change batteries. So I'll put one of these in each gun. So I think I'm all set. And we'll talk a little bit more about getting the hive ready when I get outside. So let's head out and I'll just probably walk you through one of my set of hives. I've got about 10 in this particular row that's close to me right here. I'll go out and we'll do those first, and I'll show you how I do my oxalic acid treatments today. So what I like to do on my way to the bee yard, so that these are already nice and hot when I get there, is set them on a tray. These tips will get really hot and they'll even melt my pad that I have here in the back of my ATV. So I like to go ahead and get them warmed up on my way over. And you see we're starting at 77 degrees and we're heading to 445. That's optimal temperature. And on this one, we're just going to get a flashing light, and that, we're just going to get a flashing light, and that flashing light means that it is warming up. And so we'll head over to the bee yard. There's a couple things I do for hive preparation. I like to have my entrance reducer set to the smallest hole. I'm actually going to fix this particular one by lifting up the super and sliding the entrance reducer in a little bit more. That way I can go ahead and put my oxalic acid vapor right in here. If I have a screened bottom board with an insert on it, like I do here, I'm going to make sure I have this pressed all the way in so that the maximum amount of vapor gets inside of the hive. By the way, the rest of this video I'm going to have to narrate after I record it, because you're never going to be able to hear me behind this mask, which is probably why I've never made one of these videos before. All right, we're good to go. Let's get these hives done. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is make sure that I have that entrance reducer underneath that deep super, good and secure and with minimal amount of gaps in it, so that when I put the oxalic acid in, that a lot of it doesn't leak out and most of it stays inside the hive. You can also stuff any holes with a rag if you want. Then to put the oxalic acid in the plunger, you just simply press the plunger down to the oxalic acid until it gets filled up and it sticks, which I will show you here in just a second. I'm using a rag because the InstaVap light gets hot. The plunger gets hot, the handle gets hot. All right, here's what it looks like. I've got it filled and I'm ready to go ahead and vaporize this hive. I'll just insert it into the smallest entrance there in the entrance reducer and then press the plunger. When I press the plunger, all that it's doing is it is releasing the oxalic acid powder down onto the hot pad, which melts it and then vaporizes. Hey, this is Ray. If you like content like this, would you mind hitting like and subscribe? I'd love to have you come along and join me on the journey. God bless. So while the first one is working, I can go ahead and fill up the plunger on the second one. Having a hard time getting it to stick inside the plunger because it's pretty dry, but I get it here. There we go, finally. All right, now we'll go ahead and start our second hive and let that one start to be treated. However, I did not have the entrance reducer on this one as tight as I would normally like to have it. And so as you'll see here in this close-up, a lot of it leaked out. I think I actually went back and gave this one a little bit more treatment after I fixed the entrance reducer properly so that the oxalic acid would not leak out. Okay, you might notice on the InstaVap light right here that this one actually, the battery is getting low or is already dead at this point. I didn't pick up on this until I gotten a little bit farther down the hives, and so I had to go back and hit this one again a little bit later. But I thought something was wrong with it and it wasn't working right. You see it's barely, should have been done, but it wasn't. I was like, what is going on here? And it was just the battery barely had enough power for this hive, and the next hive it had nothing. So that's why I'm struggling here. I'm like, what is going on? This thing is taking forever to get warm, and it was just a battery issue. I don't remember if I mentioned this earlier in the video. I do like both the InstaVap Lite and the regular InstaVap. However, just be aware of the InstaVap Lite. It gets hot. The handle gets very hot and the plunger gets very hot. You either need to wear some thick gloves, like thick leather gloves, or have a rag that you can grab it with, because it's very uncomfortable to use. Save you a lot of money. The only drawback that I see is just that one issue. Other than that, I love them both the same. Of course, it works better if you have a charged battery rather than an empty battery. So I thought it would be a brilliant idea, not realizing that my battery was dead in one of these, to line the two of them up next to each other, both with 3 grams of oxalic acid, and compare the amount of vapor that they both produce and how long they both produce it for. So that's what I'm going to do here. However, as you can anticipate, it did not work because the battery on the one on the right is actually dead. However, I'm going to leave this in the video because you can at least see on the one on the left how much vapor the oxalic acid gun produces, and so I think it's worth it for that. This is important because if you're worried about your introducer not sealing off 100% or your screen bottom board letting too much vapor out, this will really help you to see how much actually is going into your hive. So I've got it all lined up here, and let's give it a try. And it's going to produce it for, a good solid 45 seconds to a minute here. So it takes a few seconds for it to really burn off. This just gives us a really good idea of how much is actually going inside the hive. And oxalic acid has a really good mite kill-off rate, usually above 90% if it's administered well inside of the hive. And so that's encouraging. Of course, that's only for the phoretic mites that are on, those are mites that are actually on the bees, not the ones that are in the brood, of course. And then this is me trying to figure out what is wrong with my gun, not realizing my battery was dead. I took off the cap, so I'm a muddy mess. I'll spare you the rest of my trials while I figured out, until I figured out the battery was dead. All right, so I'm back in the shop now, and as you heard me narrate, that didn't go exactly as planned because I ended up only getting to use one of my 2 vapor guns. I did notice the lights on that one were getting a little funky, so I'm not really sure what happened with that. I've got about 15 more hives to do at another location, so I'm gonna head over and do those. But I just wanted to give you a little oxalic acid vapor show today. Thanks for joining me. God bless, and I hope to see you in the next video.